hate to be the one to break it to you, but sex education of the past failed us. Because birds and bees, they don't fuck. Welcome to Birds and Bees Don't Fuck, a show where we learn exactly how bad our formative sex education, or lack thereof, really was. I'm your host, Ariel Zadok. My guest today is a professional and lifestyle dominatrix, kink consultant, BDSM educator, and owner of Stella Obscura, LA's premier dungeon studio with the infamous Yes, Mistress sign. Please welcome to the show, Justine Cross.
Hey, thank you for having me.
I'm so happy that you're here.
Yes.
It's been a while. When I first met you, I was still in production, I think, for season 2. And I was like, oh, I got to have Justine on. And then I just stopped down for like almost 2 years. So here we are.
Here we are. We made it. We're here. It's all at the right time.
It's all at the right time. Yeah. And so people would know the Yes Mistress sign. I feel like it truly is an infamous sign.
It is. I mean, I always say, every time a beautiful woman or any beautiful person takes their photo under it, it gets more powerful and everyone gets more beautiful. Everyone's like, oh, that's your sign. I'm like, yes. That was like a start to like iconic dungeon things, Yeah.
I do feel like that. There is something about Yes Mistress that you're just like, whether you're the one that's giving the Yes Mistress and like being a good little sub, or the one that's on the receiving end, like those two words together are like, yeah, they fucking switch something on. I feel the energy of that.
It's very powerful, but then sometimes men come to the dungeon and they're very bitchy and I'm like, just turn the sign off. Just calm down. It's not that deep. I'm not a mystery.
Calm it down.
Yeah.
I feel like that's half the battle is just calm it the fuck down.
Mm-hmm.
When did you, was that something that you got right when you got your dungeon? Like, how did you, let's just talk about creating a dungeon actually. Cause that's a whole thing.
Don't is my first advice. Well, actually that was my second dungeon. The first dungeon space I had was Dungeon West. So that space was all red and black. And then I actually took over, Dungeon East, which was the all white space with the Yes Mistress sign from somebody else. So a lot of the design elements were from somebody else. And then I made it actually functional.
Yeah.
So then, we closed Dungeon West and Dungeon East, and then I moved to Stella Obscura. So that's where we are now. And I'm just trying to create a space that I can do my sessions in. Cleanliness is, next to mysterylessness, whatever that is, I'm not God, who's God, but, and making sure the space is functional, but also playful, and also a space that is one that can be moved around for sets and stuff. And it's like now, I mean, at this point, like I've had dungeons for about 15 years, but before that, like they're really beautiful now, I think. But before they were really dusty, like literally dusty, like gargoyles, like and dust. I won't name names, but I'll tell you later. But
yes, we want to see you later.
I'll tell you later. Okay.
Yeah. And it's, so why don't we actually just take a step back in case somebody does not know what a dungeon is, which if you're watching the show, most of you probably do, but I'm sure that there are some newbies in here. So do you want to share what a dungeon is? Because you're going to explain it better than I would.
Yes. Well, first of all, I would like to call it a BDSM dungeon and not a sex dungeon. I feel like a lot of more like mainstream people will call it the sex dungeon. I guess that's to distinguish it from, I don't know, a medieval English dungeon or something.
Which is obviously something that everyone has. That's where the gargoyles come in. It's like, I have one of those.
I know, exactly. It's funny. Well, one of my friends in London, like she had like someone contact her because someone did the wrong dungeon, but that makes more sense in England.
There actually were dungeons.
It was a real, like
we have
4 seasons
at best.
It was a real 4 seasons Philadelphia moment, I guess. So, so a dungeon is a space, just a BDSM play space. So, things that are usually in there would be something like a St. Andrew's cross, that X, a spanking horse, a bondage bed cage, some toys, hopefully cleaning and safety supplies, which I have. And things like that. So some people have private spaces, some people rent them out, some people, certainly here in Los Angeles, there's a lot of spaces that I wouldn't really consider dungeons, but they're BDSM event spaces because they're just only there for events. They're not being rented out by the hour. They're not being rented out by professional or personal players. But I mean, what is a dungeon anyway? Yeah.
And I love the distinction too. And that's why we use the term play instead of sex, like a play party instead of a sex party, because so much of it is not explicitly sex, and it's not even a sexual act. It may be sexy. It may turn you on. You might have an orgasm, but it's not explicitly sex, and sex is not required for BDSM play. Sex is not required for a play party. There are so many different ways, and it also depends on what you define as sex. Like for some people, it's like, well, anything that turns you on is sex. Great. That's your definition. Go for it. I think it can be, it's so vast and so wide, especially based off of what the bullshit we were all told, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I love having spaces where people can actually explore these things, because not everyone can actually bring any of these like tools and furniture pieces and props into all of their homes. Like who knows who you live with, or like it's also just expensive. You need a whole room. Like, I mean, I would love to have a room, but
I also have a home dungeon. So
I
call it the dungeonette because it's the smallest dungeon I've ever owned.
Exactly. I mean, I would love a dungeonette too, but you know, 1 bedroom. I already make this place into like enough different things.
You have a podcast studio. That's what you have. You have a podcast studio. Yeah.
That's true. One thing at a time. Maybe when I wrap production, I'm going to turn this little space into a dungeon, which I don't hate.
There you go.
Anyway, what made you get into, well, let's even back up further, because I could back up so many places. How did you become a dominatrix? Because I think that is something that so many people must wonder.
Well, I have a liberal arts education, so this is where we end up. Well, I have degrees in literature and psychology, and after I graduated from college, I moved out here with a partner, and I had actually before that, when I was in high school, my friends gave me a book called "I Was a Teenage Dominatrix" by Shauna Kenny. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's actually a pretty good book. It's like a short memoir about this woman's journey, really trying to jump class, going from working class, going to college for the first time, anyone in her family, and figuring out how to pay for it all. So similarly, this is how I paid for college, but post-college. So I moved out here and I Googled Los Angeles and dungeon. I started working at a dungeon, as well as working full-time at another place, and worked at a commercial space, which is, if you don't know, it's like you're there for shifts. And you're supposed to be an independent contractor. They set the rate for you, which is illegal. Anyway, that place no longer exists. So I think I won. But so I was working at that space for about a year and a half. And at a commercial space, it depends. This space in particular actually had me starting training as a submissive and then a switch, which makes absolutely no fucking sense. So obviously I was not very good at being submissive, but for $100 an hour, I'll take it. At that time, was a lot of money. I mean, it's still a lot of money now, but so then I became independent. So I left that space and started renting from other dungeons. Various things happened. Then I had to start actually renting back from the original dungeon. I was booking so much. I'm like, I am paying their mortgage.
Yeah.
I don't want to pay your mortgage. And also the place was disgusting. So I decided to get my own dungeon. So that I had Dungeon West for a couple of years. And then I had an opportunity to have another space. So I doubled down and I got Dungeon East, ran those 2 spaces together for about 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you were doing both of those at the same time.
Oh yeah, I was.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, both at the same time. Yeah, so I'm an overachiever.
Yeah.
Well, I was a double major, 2 dungeons. It all works.
Makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah. So then we closed Dungeon West in the fall of 2020, partially because of the pandemic and everything. It was like, I don't know what's going on. Let's lose one ship to save the fleet kind of thing. So we continued running Dungeon East, and then I realized I wanted to move out of that space, and then we're in the space now, Stella Obscura, which you've been to, which in many ways is my favorite dungeon. But because it's so wonderful for one-on-one sessions. But the thing, of course, that I miss, and I know you miss as well, is that we're no longer hosting events and classes. So there's a real sad hole in everyone's heart and dry spot on everyone's panties. But it's okay, because there are new parties coming out all the time, inspired by me. So I set the bar, but I do miss having events, but it was the right move for what I'm doing professionally and personally. So that's where we are.
Yeah. What a trajectory. Because I think that I think if we're so lucky that we live in LA, and New York is another big city for that, and like London as well. Like the big cities, I feel like these things are so much more accessible because they are like more population is going to mean more accessibility to sex positive spaces, and especially kinky spaces. And I think it's so just I think for some people, it's like such a pipe dream to be a dominatrix or get into BDSM at all on any side of it. So I think that there's a lot of inspiration when you see women like you that are like doing the thing, and you're a super well-known dominatrix and you've owned these studios for so long. And it like you said, like now there are other organizations and other events that are popping up because of the road that you paved.
Oh, definitely. Many people are copying me. Which,
well, yeah, that's a whole other thing too. Yeah.
Well, some people are doing things in like a good, like, oh, Justine inspired me. And other people are like copying, you know? And it's like, I know who every single one of you are. You're probably not listening to this or hearing this, but like, I know who you are. Anyway.
I mean, that for sure happens. And I think that happens in every business. Like
that happens in every single industry. Like, of course it does. You know, I mean, like I'm in, you know, so many different worlds, but that happens everywhere. I think it's always disappointing when it happens or when it happens from someone who you think is like a friend or an acquaintance that's like a colleague. But you know, hey, I know, they know, and now some of you know. So
we
anyway,
all
but
know.
I
now
know.
We know.
Believe me, I'm on top of it. Anyway,
just power, y'all.
Yeah,
it is. So actually, that I really want to talk about that too, because the abundance of fake doms.
They're all on TikTok.
They're all on fucking TikTok. Yeah. I mean, there's such an abundance of people who, like, the amount of people that are like, as men, I'm talking to you men, that are like, I'm a pleasure dom. Like, I don't trust a single fucking person that says that at all.
No.
I love that reaction. What are your thoughts on pleasure dom?
What the fuck does that even mean?
Exactly.
I mean, like people, I mean, you know, on one hand, I mean, yeah, I think, I mean, here's the thing. Look, like, you know, there's, in terms of back to what you were saying earlier about like, I don't even want to touch pleasure dom because that's just like silly. But back to about like the training of things. It's like, okay, look, like, you know, how are we trained as sex workers, you know, because a dom, even though what I do professionally is not really what I consider sex, but of course it is sexual. So it is under the umbrella of sex work. You know, how am I being trained? There's no certification process here or thing, you know, I mean, you're a, I'm sorry, what is it called again? The onset, the intimacy coordinator. Okay. So that's like a very rigorous program as it should be. And there's, you know, that doesn't exist for DOMs, right? Okay. So that provides an opportunity for many people to do this, which on one hand, it's good because most people who do this on the binary are women. And we are still in a state where in terms of like how people get paid, women are always going to get paid less than men, except for sex work. Sex work is the only thing, and I try to say this at every single interview, where women are getting paid more than men. Again, this is on a binary, like there's more than one gender, but this is what we're talking about right now. So that's good because why? When we have more money, we have more power, and that is good. Now, the bad side, the flip side of that is that opens a lot of opportunity for safety to not happen, for people to not be skilled in doing what they're doing, not knowing what they're doing. I see a lot of like DOMs now. I've been doing this. This is actually my 20th year in August. So thank you. So I see a lot of people saying, I am classically trained. What the fuck does that mean? I know.
I think you're classic. What is this, fucking ballet? Like, what do you mean?
I know. It means absolutely
classically trained.
It means
by someone from the 80s? Like, what is that?
I don't know. It means nothing. So, you know, like, but I could say that. And what does that mean? Does that mean that like I was apprenticed to someone? No, I wasn't. How did I learn? Honestly, how I learned the most was from male switches. And it was because most of my clients, and that was the best way to learn. Why? Because most of my clients are men. And as a switch, a switch can tell me from both the submissive side and the dom side how to structure a scene, how it feels. Like that was really helpful. Now, you know, in the last 5 years, and especially coming up through the pandemic, there's so much more education out there than there was when I started, and doing a lot of education, both online and in person, that did not exist when I
No.
started. Absolutely not. Podcasts were not so much happening.
They didn't even exist.
Yeah, I
20
mean,
years ago.
there was educators. Like, I think Midori was like the only
Yeah,
one, you know, and there was books. Okay, great. Now we have education, and that's really wonderful because now people are learning these skills and they are learning how to do things. But you know, what I'm seeing now with the rise of social media is that there's obviously a lot of like TikTok DOMs or sketchy discords and things like this where not everyone is bad at these things. You have to learn or do something somehow, but they're certainly better at TikTok than I am at TikTok, which, you know, obviously in social media, we're getting shadow banned. We're getting we're getting deplatformed all the time. I know we both had these experiences. Everyone interesting does, but also, you know, weirdly enough, a lot of uninteresting people get deplatformed some of these things as well for reasons that we just don't know. But anyway, I think that, and then of course, you know, this also bringing online stuff, these are two totally different beasts. Like I was brought up doing mostly in person. At the time, Night Flirt was the only thing that existed in terms of, which I'm still on, is the only thing that exists in terms of like online play. There's like clips for sale. That's not, you know, but now some people are just online, and that is a certain skill set that is completely different from doing in person. And definitely people who are making really good money online are far better at doing online stuff than I am. I have met some of these online DOMs. Some people are unable to have a conversation with you in person. And they wouldn't know what to do with someone in person. But hey, I'm not necessarily as good at doing things online as, you know, they are. So it's a different skill set and different, you know, things going on. But it's, you know, and then of course, in terms of online DOM things, it's like there's a lot of scammers and a lot of fake accounts.
My God,
and that's constant, where at this point, like every time I sign on to any social media platform, if I see any DOM, I see them in quotes because they're using someone else's photos, I just automatically block them. You know, and that's helped because then I'm getting comments and weird stuff. So that's like, you know, these things are happening. So, I mean, I'm a real person. I'm very well known.
A very real person, really, in life. But to your point of people, because I see that within sex education too, and like and I've been a coach since 2014. So I've seen so many different iterations of like scammy coaches, scammy sex educators, which like they do exist too. But it's like, it is so infuriating when you see someone that is getting so much clout and so much attention, and like they're in this magazine and that magazine, they're getting so much because they're good at PR, but they're not actually qualified or experienced in the work. And I am very much, I'm a perfectionist, and I'm also like a serial what is it called? Imposter syndrome. Like I just have so much imposter syndrome despite having multiple certifications and years of experience in this, that, or the other thing. So that can be, I think, really difficult from a colleague perspective too, when you see this stuff happening and you're like, this person is everywhere and I know they're full of shit. I used to see that a lot in yoga. People be like, all like namaste and shit, because this was like the beginning of more like social media influencing. And then I'd be like, bitch, I know who the fuck you are as soon as that camera turns off. What are we doing?
Yeah, that is frustrating. I mean, I think for me sometimes, like, I mean, I've been in like so much mainstream media, like podcasts and print and stuff like that. But I see a lot of other people who have really good PR, not so much in my industry, but other PR. And I'm like, wow, I would kill for this PR. And then they go out of business because their business is not good. They don't. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess it doesn't. I mean, like, you know, we're recording this like the week before Valentine's Day, you know, and I've been sick, so I haven't been able to do as much as I wanted to do. But like, every year for so many years, I like send out all this like press, all this PR stuff. I'm like, hey, Los Angeles, like book the dungeon for Valentine's Day. It never gets picked up. And I'm just like, really? Like the same old shitty time. If I hear one more thing about Max and Helen's Diner, I swear to God. Like,
oh my God.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Well, this is a very LA specific thing. It's like a diner. I mean, I'm sure it's good, but it's like 8-hour waits and like, why? No, please stop writing about it. Like it's terrible.
A whole day?
You know, yeah, that's not worth it.
Anyway, pay me.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, and it's hard. And that's why, like, I mean, honestly, a lot of people, I get a lot of referrals and I get a lot of people who know me and connect that way. And then it's like, I mean, it's not through some like really bizarre things. Like I've had like clients like come to me from, I mean, well, obviously a lot, well, I'm thinking of like one, it sounds really creepy, but it was really sweet. I was talking to a client for a very long time and he's like, I just really want you to see my sister because like, I
Aw.
just think she'd have such a good experience with you. And I know like incest is really popular right now in porn, but like, it was not that.
Yeah.
And he's like, I just really want her to have a positive like sexual experience. And I think you'd be really good at that.
Yeah.
And then today I had pelvic floor therapy and this woman's like, oh yeah, do you know Ellie? And I was like, oh yeah, I was in a reality show. So,
Oh
it's
my
like,
God.
like we're really connected here,
Yeah. That I love the overlap of different modalities
Mhm.
within sex and sexual wellness
Mhm.
and adult and all these things, like the intersectionality. And there's so many people that just it's such a siloed thing so often, no matter what pocket you work in. If you are a dom, if you are a teacher, if you are a qualified influencer, if you are a coach, if you're here, like it does feel like, even with intimacy coordinators, we experience this too. We're a one person department in a dynamic where everyone has at least an assistant. We don't have assistants.
Yeah. And of course, some of them are not good either. Like I've been on set where I'm like, is this really happening? There's an intimacy coordinator and like, who do I tell?
Yeah.
Like something bad is happening. What do I do? I don't know. I'm like, I'm just going to watch this situation and monitor it and just hope nothing bad happens,
which is really rough. And I hope now we're in a place where there are more qualified and certified intimacy coordinators, but it is new. So there are still people that are working, especially if they're saying yes to low budgets. Like there are certain jobs that I won't do because I'm like, you're not paying me enough. And like, there is someone who is maybe less experienced, but on the level that like you can pay, or you can pay my rate and get what you actually need. Some of them are still good too, but like that's the challenge of such a new position and department. And then oftentimes what will happen is that you have people that come from sex education or sex therapy or whatever and haven't worked on film before. And it's a different world. You got to have film experience. So depending on where you train, either that's a requirement to get your certification, or some places don't require that. So it's like, all of these things are like so complicated. But the point of that is that like everyone's in a fucking silo and we're all just like doing our own thing, getting deplatformed, getting, kicked out of stuff. And I don't even remember where I was going with it, but we are lonely.
It can be a very lonely profession.
Yeah, it can be. But I think that's why we always get so excited when any of us are in a room together. And I was talking about this with XBiz. Something I really love about that space, and really any space where you get a bunch of us together, is like the bullshit is fucking gone for the most part. Obviously, there's always going to be some dodgy motherfuckers, always, in every industry, everywhere you go. But for the most part, it's really nice to be in an industry that when we finally get together, there is, I don't want to call it an inherent intimacy, but like the bullshit, there's like less layers for people to cut through. Do you find that too? You've been in way longer than I have.
Yeah. I mean, well, I think like specific to XBiz, which is an adult conference in Los Angeles or all other places, but like during the day, because so much of it is focused on, classes or workshops or talks where you're not having people partying. It's industry only. You're not getting looky-loos. Everyone is just there to connect, reconnect, learn from each other, network, and it's really just about business.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that. And I'm sad that I've just through various reasons have missed it really the last couple of years. But it's just like, I really, hey, I still have everyone's cards and dildos in a pile.
That's my bag.
We all
right
have,
there.
I know. Yeah, right. We all have that pile. It's like, I got to start going through that. Anyway, they're still alive. They're still there. So, I think that that's good. But I mean, to your point, it's just like, anytime that we can get together in person or even doing like, online calls with people, anytime when we connect, it's always so much better. Cause sometimes it does feel like we're in our little worlds and like, is anyone listening to us, or like, are we able to connect? And then it's like, when you get together, everyone's like, oh wait, I meant to talk to you and ask you about that thing. And then you're like, oh, thank God someone saw it, or whatever it is. And it's just like, it's just very rejuvenating and good. I mean, I'm super social. I'm like, like a lot of doms are like, they're kind of like, weirdos or
Little
a
recluse,
lot of like, you know, but very like, you know, introverted, like cat on the couch. I'm just like, no, I want out. I want to party.
Yeah.
I'm like out. I am super social. I love like going out with my friends and hanging out during parties, as you know. And
Yeah.
stuff. So,
And you're such a good connector too. Like you really do. You have that yes, mistress energy everywhere. You're just like mommy. Like, thank you, mommy.
Thanks. Oh God, I'm not a mommy.
I know you're not a mommy, but like, it's just that caring, like it's a different context with friends, right? But it is like, you do have this thing about you that you just want to like bring people together, take care of everybody, make sure everybody's having a good time. And like, what better person to be a dom?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's how like my autism shines. It's just like, you know, it's like, oh, let's get everyone together so I don't have to be in an environment that I don't want to be in.
Yeah.
You know, and like I've often been in like at dinner parties or gatherings where I like look around the table and I realize that I have connected every single person there at the table, that they did not know each other before me. And now we're all sitting together at the table.
Oh, I love that. I've had experiences where two people knew each other and I was like, oh my God, I didn't know you knew so-and-so. And they were like, yeah, you're the reason we know each other. I'm like, oh, that's nice.
Life gets busy, you know?
Yeah. That is a really nice thing. But now I want to ask you, where did you grow up?
Oh, I grew up in the East Coast, and I went to school in New York, like tri-state area, and abroad, and then I've been out in Los Angeles for 20 years.
Yeah, that's why we get along, because I'm from New York too.
I know.
What do you remember about your sex education?
I actually had a really good sex education. I went to I went to a very good private school for the first half, so there wasn't so much sex education there yet. But then I went to a very good public school, and it was actually very good. It was very comprehensive. I mean, obviously a very long time ago now, but also very good in terms of at that time, drug education. It wasn't very shameful. I mean, it was DARE. DARE still exists? I don't know. Anyway, but it was
work,
actually, it was actually pretty good.
Wow.
You know, I remember, I mean, I have a very good memory, and I was just like thinking about this before this interview, and like, wow, that was pretty good. I mean, everything that obviously I learned now is like out the window, you know, because of what, and, you know, but what I was thinking about in terms of this is that the thing that I've always said about sex education, which, as we know, is uneven and not great in our country, is that it leaves out something that is so important, which is the adolescent myth of that this is never going to happen to me, and it's going to happen to you because it happens to you, and this is how it happens. But I mean, how do you tell a teenager that? I don't know, because I'm not an adolescent psychologist, but someone is, and someone should put this into the programming.
Yeah. That's such a valid point, because there is this aspect of it where it's like the fear mongering type stuff, and that there's like two aspects of this is never going to happen to me. One of them is the fear mongering, where you're like, this is so absurd that it's not going to happen. For some people, it does terrify them, and then they're like these poor small children that are fucking terrified of everything, which is horrible. But I think this is a great perspective, because the other half of it is like, well, that's not going to happen to me. Like my dick isn't going to look like that. Like my pussy's not going to turn out to be like that. Like that's not going to be my body. And of course there are different variations in between those two. And then there's also the other aspect of it, of the kids that are like, well, I'm never going to get laid, so what do I even need to know this for? And that I never really thought too much about. I talk to people who are obviously like, oh, I wasn't even thinking about this stuff, so it didn't even impact me at all. But I think that that's a really interesting perspective to put on it, of like, this is never going to happen to me, from both of those perspectives.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that like at the, when you're just talking now, like, of course, what was also missing from that sex education was talking about any kind of consent or bodily autonomy, which was completely left out. And, you know, I don't even know if that's included now. It never occurred to me that I was never going to get laid in high school, but it did occur to me that what I wanted was so advanced that no one in high school could do what I wanted. So I was like, I'm going to pause on this, and I'm going to wait. And like, I remember like, I mean, I identify as queer, and I always have, but I did date men earlier, and I remember thinking like, I need to lie about my age so I'm older, because I don't want to attract a man who is dating an 18-year-old, because that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously they eventually realized I was lying about my age, because it's like, you can't not. And then they're like, okay, but like, I get it. And like, you're cool and whatever. But it's like, yeah.
I had a boyfriend that lied to me about his age the other way.
Oh.
Because he must have been 23 when I thought he was 22 or something like that. This was my freshman year of college. So I was 18 when I met him. So I think he must have been like 22 maybe, or maybe 20. He was like whatever it was. It was like 22, 23, or maybe he was 23. But he had a birthday and I like wished him happy 23rd birthday or happy 24th or whatever. No, I think it was happy 23rd and he was actually turning 24 or something like that. And so like I was even specific on his card, and we had been dating for months at this point, like almost a year. And he didn't say anything to correct me after his birthday. And then it wasn't until we were going on a camping trip at his friend's cabin or his friend's house. And we were like in the McDonald's drive-thru, and I was getting his wallet out so I could give him money to pay. And I looked at his license and I was like, oh, that's weird. You were born a month before my brother, but the year is a year before.
No.
And that's how I found out.
No.
And that was an awkward weekend.
I would think so. Yes.
Yeah. So that was a weird age story. But his reasoning was it was not the better. It was similar because he was like, I didn't think you would date me because I'm so much older. I'm like, dude, it was a fucking year. What are you talking about? It's a little different on that perspective.
That's weird. Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, they definitely do not teach any consent these days. I mean, how many adults do we deal with that still don't really understand what consent is or like what that looks like? So I'm curious on your kink journey because we learned so much about consent from BDSM and from kinky practices and just BDSM framework. So when do you feel like you started learning about that and like thinking about consent in that way?
You know, I don't know. I mean, I think like a lot of this is like shaped by the fact that I had really, one, like at the time, very good factual sex education, but I also had just really good early sexual experiences. Like I like understood pleasure for myself, like, and I had really good like lovers and people who wanted to give me pleasure, and like, you know, nothing like that bad happened, you know, until I moved out to LA. Oh God. Anyway, but like, and then I was like, oh God, dicks are small out here, and like, oh, it's terrible. Anyway, whatever. But it's like, it was, you know, so I'm trying to think of like when, you know, that like specifically like entered. But I think it's just, it happens like when the mainstream conversation happens as well. And that informs like other things as well. Like, but because it's not like there would have ever been a situation where I would have done something to someone professionally or in a personal relationship that wasn't consensual.
Yeah.
But, you know, the more, you know, the BDSM framework of like negotiations and like talking about what you want and what you don't want, like that, I always teach like brings that into other realms, like just a sex life. I actually teach a class like how to have a better sex life through BDSM, but there's nothing, you're not going to learn how to spank someone in this class.
Yeah.
But it's all about the framework about consent and negotiation and, you know, things like that. And I always ask people like, okay, like what, you know, when you're having sex with someone, like, do you ever sit there and think like, okay, I want them to do this thing and I'm thinking about it and it's in my head, and everyone like raise your hand. You all do this, right? We all do this. And then I'm like, okay. And when has that ever worked? Everyone puts their hand down, you know, in shame. And I'm like, look, I know I do it too. We all do it, but why don't we try it this way? And why don't we try talking about what we want or what we don't want and see how that goes?
Yeah.
And obviously it's going to go much better than if you don't, you know, I mean, and again, this is, you know, Los Angeles, and, you know, when I'm dealing with younger clients and stuff, like it's better now than, you know, I think when I first started, and like my clients 20 years ago were in their 60s or, you know, 70s, like they're probably dead now.
Yeah.
You know, they're not having that same conversation with their partners, and they can, and I wouldn't even encourage them to do it. They're like 30, 40 years into a marriage, like nothing is going to change. It's very disturbing to me now when I see some clients who are having these like issues about talking about their fantasies with their current partners, and they're like in their 20s. And I mean, yeah, I guess there's a big, you know, backslide of sex education and, you know, COVID and everything of all that. But I'm just like, but you have the internet now, you know, like, and that's where they're learning things. And, you know, that's, you know, a slippery slope as well sometimes. But it's like, also, where are you going to learn this? If your school is not teaching this, your parents aren't teaching this to you,
Nope.
your what your church. No, that's not what I,
They are definitely not.
No, like, so where are you going to learn this?
Yeah.
Like, you're going to learn it from like, your friends, the internet, like what,
Porn,
I don't even
magazines,
know.
like you're just going to
I
be out there and hiding it and doing it in a way that's super secretive if you don't feel safe within your environment, if your parents are very shameful and like, it is, education is so important. Like, I don't care how old you are, please seek it out.
Yes.
We are never too old to start learning.
No.
Even like people have this, they're like, well, I know how to fuck, bitch. No, you don't. I'm gonna tell you that right now. You don't. Let's just start from there.
You can always do better.
You can always do better. Like it's ongoing. And sex is one of those areas where we are constantly learning more because humans are experiential. We are going to experiment. We're going to create new things. We're going to create new props. We're going to create new scenes. We're going to create new things. And that requires having education, having patience, and being able to talk and co-create. I mean, even if you're not having a kinky scene, sex is a co-creation. But we're like kind of doing it in silos in so many cases. And you can't do that.
No, you cannot. And I mean, to your point about like, you're never too old to learn this. Like I'm always telling people like, look, it's okay if you don't know how to do this, it's because you weren't taught.
Yeah.
And it's like most people, and especially if you're coming specifically from a background of sex shaming or just not talking about it or talking about it really negatively, it's going to take a moment to unwind all that shit.
Yeah.
It is going to take a minute to undo all that, realize that wasn't a good message. That was not the best message. And here's like the real, and here's how we can move forward in this. And also, sex and kink, like it's going to evolve as you grow as a person because you're going to evolve. It's going to be different with different people. It's going to be different with your body as your body changes. It's going to look different. Like a lot of my friends are older. They're in perimenopause, menopause land. And, I'm in a lot of forums. People are like, oh my God, if this happens to me, what's going to happen? And am I not going to have sex anymore? And like, if I have a hysterectomy, I'm not going to have a cervix and I'm not going to have this and I'm not going to have sex pleasure. And I'm just like, deep breath, girl.
Like, deep breath.
It's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
It might be different, but it's gonna be different because it's gonna be different regardless if you have a surgery or not, because you are gonna go through menopause, whether you want to or not. It's gonna happen. Things are going to be different. You're going to have different things going on for you at different times. Like you're going to have like whatever, different physical injuries at different times. Like it's just going to happen. And, I'm just so grateful now that there are so many resources and there are so many like great people out there giving so many, great books and talks and stuff. And I'm always happy to share resources. And if I see someone that's great, I'm always like, oh, let me share this. Let me post this. Let me like get this out there. Like I trust this person. This is good. Here's where to go. And just more and more education, and also just other educators or platforms bringing together other really wonderful educators in a group, like Dom Sub Living, like does a lot of really great stuff. So I'm like, okay, good. Maybe I don't know everyone here, but like, I know that they're good. So I'll just, send people there because like, I do education, but that's not like all of what I do. So like, I'm, in that platform or something, like I'm the only person who's not a full-time educator, so I'm like, I don't have all this, but I'm more on like the one-on-one side, and which I'd rather do anyway. So yeah,
but that's why it's so important, especially because we're shadow banned everywhere and we get our shit deplatformed. It is really important to share resources and like, hey, hit the share button and share this with a friend.
Yes,
especially if they're interested in any sort of BDSM and learning more. And it is, again, I guess coming back to the community a little bit, because we do tend to uplift each other a lot because we all recognize if we're not sharing information and we're not lifting each other up, then there's just such a scarcity of information across the board. And everyone has something different to offer. There's like, there can never be too many qualified sex educators and qualified people with lived experience who can actually like speak to something, because everyone's going to resonate differently with different teachers. So like, do your homework, do your research. It's going to make your sex better.
Yes.
And I love that also sex and disabilities is part of the conversation a lot more. That is a community that has just gotten so fucking ignored and desexualized and infantilized in so many different ways. It's like, yeah, just because you have a disability doesn't mean that you can't experience pleasure and sex, or just because you're getting older doesn't mean you're not fucking. We hear the stories about all those residences.
Yes. Yes. You just can't marry each other because you lose your disability. So
yeah,
that's a big one. Yeah. We need to work on that one too. So, but yes.
Yeah. Ceremonies only.
Yeah.
Only. Yeah. I think we're just in a really exciting time where, despite being, it's so
Fire horse
interesting.
here.
Yeah. Fucking fire horse. Let's go.
Oh, yes.
Oh my God. Yeah. I feel that in my bones, but it is a really interesting time because I think on one side of the coin, there's so much more shadowing and suppression and trying to get sex and sex education out of the conversation. And at the same time, I feel like we're also having this like revolution in ways where there is so much more access. We're seeing more companies emerge. We're seeing more tech emerge. It's this real, like, which way is it going? But it kind of feels like both sides are growing equally, if that makes sense. I don't know if you're feeling like that too.
I mean, two things I want to say is that, like, one, in terms of like shadow banning, like, yeah, like a lot of content gets suppressed, and we see more in terms on social media of like the rage baiting and the rage clicks and the bad news. Like there aren't a lot of good news channels. And this is unfortunately on both sides of the aisle a problem. On both sides of the aisle, they're just pushing and pulsing out like terrible news. But then when you look at statistics of a lot of things, it's not as bad as maybe any news source media will lead you to believe. One thing I will say, like, again, because like I'm, I have like I have a stiletto, if you will, like in the education side. For many years, I did something called Models of Pride with the LGBT Center. So I think the first time I did it was maybe 10 years ago now. And I did like a BDSM 101, and it was the youth, but it was, it was like, the whole thing was from 13 to like 21. But if you were in my class, you had to be over 18. But I didn't check ID. So, because I couldn't, because legally I could not look at any information from these children. Oh. So I'm like, I have to tell you, you have to be over 18, but I can't look at your ID. So, I remember teaching that first class, and it was just like BDSM 101. And then the last time I did it, it was so interesting because the kids are all, I mean, this is Los Angeles too, but the kids are all right. Because like after that last time I did it, which was a couple years ago now, like, one person came up to me and they're like, I'm a sex worker too. And I'm like, I was like, you go. And then someone else, the other person was like, another person said, oh, can I take a photo with you? And I said, okay, yeah, that's okay. And then he said, well, can you pull my hair? And I said, no, I can't do that. Yeah. And he told me he was into giantess stuff. And I said, wow, you all are advanced. Yeah. And I said that, and actually that was like the running joke in my class. Cause I said, I prepared this for people who are 101. And I'm telling you right now that I'm teaching your parents and your grandparents, and they don't know ball, but you all do. Yeah. And it was really interesting to see that trajectory of like, from the very beginning, like, asking some questions or maybe knowing some stuff, or maybe it was like a shyer thing. And then being there in this environment where people are disclosing that they're doing sex work, that they have these fetishes, that they wanted me to interact with them in that way. Yeah. and it made me so, so happy. And it was like, oh, you guys are really good.
They're internet kids,
They are like, internet kids.
Where we had to rely on like scrambled Skinamax and, like, listen, I was trying to see a boob,
full access. Like that also helped my sex education actually, because I'm like Red Shoes Diary kid, what was it? Like we make fun of them, but it was like Real Sex
on HBO.
Real Sex on HBO and like Red Shoes Diary. So it was like soft porn, but like really well done. And I remember watching all the real sex stuff. And that also really helped informed my like sexual education, and just being like watching it and saying like, oh, okay, like that doesn't seem weird to me, or maybe it's not for me, but I understand it. And that was like huge. I also didn't grow up in like a sex like forward or positive environment, but it wasn't a sex negative or shaming environment.
Just like neutral.
It was just neutral. Yeah. Like, we went to church, but it was a very neutral church. It was very like, the Reverend like did puppet shows. Actually, it was actually really sweet. It was not like fire and brimstone. Yeah. It was just like, it was sort of like more like an adult drinking club, but like night, like I still follow it on Facebook, and I'm like, hey, so it wasn't, there was nothing negative or shaming, but it wasn't like I didn't grow up in this like, specifically feminist, like sex forward household or something. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually really resonate with that because it's not like in my house there was anything that was necessarily sex negative. Like there was definitely like your skirt's too high, your shirt's too low, your shirt's too high, like cover all your
I never
skin.
had that. Yeah.
Like I definitely had a lot of that. And my mom watched a lot of 2020. So it was a lot of like, someone's going to steal you. And, she wasn't wrong. Someone did follow my sister home when she was young. So and yeah, she had to like cut through the woods type shit. So like stuff happens, right?
Yeah, of course.
So I did grow up with a lot of street smarts. But they just didn't talk about sex. Like it was just like, we're just going to ignore that this even exists. And then it's all I do is talk about it. So good job there, which is sometimes what happens. Oh God, there was something that we said. I just like totally lost my train of thought. But I do like the sex neutral is probably like, you're probably one of the better stories that I've heard on this show in terms of like, it was pretty accurate and it wasn't so bad.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of like, actually, I'll tell this story. Like when I was in college, I was an RA, a resident assistant. So that was how I paid for room and board for part of it. And I decided we were able to have bulletin boards, right? So I had this idea to just take condoms and make a big fish on the bulletin board so people could take condoms and stuff. And I made sure we always had condoms in the bathrooms. This is really funny. I was actually an RA for men, for boys.
Yeah.
They didn't have, I don't know. Anyway, so we did that. So people always had access to condoms because in my school, that was the other thing. I went to a liberal arts school. So we had education there and there was a lot of sex positive groups and things like that. It wasn't shameful. So you could get condoms. And some of my residents told me, so I'm only a few years older than them, they told me that they could get condoms in their high school, but if they got more than 3, then there'd be a call home. And I was like, what? And several of them told me, this is in New York, and several of them told me that was what they heard. I'm like, okay, you'll always have condoms here. And I felt very strongly about that. And I always made sure that there were condoms in the bathroom. The fish, we didn't always have the fish because people kept ripping it down. And I was like, this is annoying and this cute. But anyway, so I put condoms in the bathroom and my residents knew that they could always get condoms from me. And sometimes they're like, hey, sorry, do you have any condoms? I was like, yeah, sure. Here you go. Yeah. So, cause I had no shame or it was no issue for me to like go get that. And that was really important. So
saving lives.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. That's such a powerful thing. I mean, the mixed messaging there of like, you can have a condom, but you can only have 3 and then you're going to get in trouble. Like, what the fuck is that? Like
3, that's like a weekend. That's not even,
exactly. Especially for like teenagers that are experimenting or whatever. Like, what if they fuck up and they don't put it on right? And then they blew through 3 before they could even use 1 because they were probably not taught how to put a condom on. I mean, maybe they were in your school, but it's the amount of confusing messages that everybody, I mean, Madonna whore complex, anyone? Hello.
Yeah.
If you don't know what the Madonna whore complex is, it's basically stating that a woman cannot be both sexual and your child's mother and a wife and all this bullshit, instead of just being like, oh no, people are whole ass human beings.
Yeah.
They contain multitudes. They can do multiple things. So it's wild. But there is so much mixed messaging and so much duality in what we learn with every experience with sex education. It's fucking wild.
It is. I mean, but that's why it's like good now that we have more education and people are getting it. I mean, like I don't have a horse in the race to help the children, which we need. But I'm just always hopeful that things are getting better. And again, because of the internet, people are able to access things more. And but I mean, it is sad that like kids today aren't growing up with like real sex, because that like really was such a great. I don't even know. Maybe can you find it online? I just want to watch it.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that because
I haven't rewatched it obviously, but I remember like it was good. But I mean, again, like looking at it now through like a 2026 lens to like the 90s or whatever, like that's different.
It's going to be different.
Part of
me doesn't want to watch it because I feel like I have the memories of like being in the dark under the blanket, low. Like, I think I even pulled the brightness down. I did not want to get caught.
We should just do a sleepover with sex educators and like do like Mystery Science Theater commentary.
Oh
like, I think
God.
that would just be really sweet,
It would be really sweet.
I mean, it would be interesting to see like what it is now. But I mean, again, like at that time, that was what we had, and that shit was good. Okay. It was good. It really was. And like, and just also like having like this soft porn, because it wasn't like, because it wasn't hardcore, like it was sort of like there was more of a story. And I don't think that things were put in about like consent and safe sex. I'm sure there wasn't, but it wasn't like what happens in porn and people seeing that, not realizing that off camera, there's hopefully a whole consent conversation that's happening, that's not happening in porn, that I think now more people, there is more in porn leaning towards that, which I think is really helpful. But you know, I mean, I think porn is helpful, but like, I don't know what's going, you know, a lot of people are, I don't even know. I don't want to say it, but like, people are fucking stupid. Anyway, but like, I said it. Okay. But
it's ethical porn.
Yeah.
You know, like, make sure you know the makers.
It's ethical porn. Well, I mean, I think it's like, you know, people are watching, you know, like, do people watch doctor shows and think like you can perform surgery? No. Okay. So I hope, but do you, if you do, then the rest of this is not going to make any sense. Like what's happening in porn is like not necessarily what's happening in like the real world or real life, but then sometimes it is. I mean, but it's like theatrical. Like, you know, I shoot content, but I don't shoot naked content like that I'd really consider porn. Like that's just not what I do. But it's like my scenes are really great privately. They would not read well on the camera at fucking all. Okay. Because like so much of it is happening in your head. That does not translate to the camera, which is why I do not do it. And you know, what I do is, and what I excel at and what I love so much is having the one-on-one experience with people, or doing like a small class, which like, have you been to any of my classes or online or in person?
No,
I can't remember.
Been to the classes. Okay. Yeah, I would love to do that.
Okay, you should see. It's really fun and good. It's really just like a, you know, me doing stand-up comedy. And then I throw some sex BDSM info in there and give you a sheet.
A fucking killer program right there.
I know, right? There you go. That's why everyone comes.
Yeah. No, I love that. And, you know, I think every time you speak, my head goes in so many different directions. I'm like, but I'm an active listener. That's why I keep losing my train of thought. One thing that is so prevalent and so important for everybody to understand is that when you're watching porn, it is a performance the same way that mainstream content is a performance.
Yes.
It's planned out. They are actors. They are putting on a show. They are performing as characters. Even if they enjoy what they're doing, it's still a performance. It's still planned out. It's still like, okay, we got to shoot this again. We need to get this angle. Okay, let's go back to one, do it again. Like it works the same way all production works. It is a scene that you're shooting that, to your point, you have to shoot it in a certain way. Otherwise it doesn't read on camera. And maybe you miss the shot. And maybe it's like, oh, the lighting was wrong. We got to pause and fix the lighting, but we got to make sure if there's a penis involved that it stays hard, or, you know, that if there's a vulva involved, that it's not getting dry and causing pain. Cause that can happen in the middle of it too. When you're just like, I've been shooting this for however many hours now.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a really good way to put it, that like the porn that you're watching is a performance just like a mainstream is. But I think that also, being that we've both worked on set, we understand how much goes into a production that people don't understand.
Yeah.
Like where I have been I've done not as an I've worked like not as as like a glorified extra, you know, it's like myself, but like, you know, on the side. And like every time, but it's I have two that I've done have been for huge group scenes, which, you know, and every time I see a group scene in a show or movie, I like get fucking hives because you have no idea. That's like a 20-hour fucking day. And it's just like, and when I look at stuff like I'm a big Golden Girls fan. So I watched Hot in Cleveland, and Betty White was on it when she was like, I don't know, in her 90s, 80s. And every scene she was in, she was always sitting pretty much. And it's like, people don't realize like how long it takes to get one little thing, you know? And I think the easiest way to explain is like when you're watching a show or TV and there's two people talking and it goes from one person's side to the other person's side, they're shooting that twice, sometimes 3 or 4 times
Yep.
for just that one conversation. And that could take days. And you're seeing it, it's a 5-minute conversation.
Yeah.
It is different. And yeah, we obviously have a lot of background knowledge of like seeing what it takes for production. And it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I worked on Spartacus many, many years ago. And the opening scene of season 3 was a battle. We shot that for like 4 months.
Oh God. Yeah,
we shot it for forever, because there's like, we had some of the main content of it, but then like we had so many pickups. I set like 6 guys on fire. It was amazing. But it's just, there is so much that goes into that, and be good to performers. Like that's the message of this. And also don't look to that for your education. And there are performers that also do some education that are also like kind of helping to use their platform in that way too. There's so many different ways to get education now that there's like, do you like to read books? Cool. Do you like to take a course? Great. Do you like a podcast? Welcome. Do you like in-person workshops? Like there's so many different ways that we can get information to have great sex and banging ass scenes. Like I don't trust almost anybody to top me, because I'm like, I need to know that you know what the fuck you're doing. Because the last thing that I want to do as a sub is be thinking about, does this motherfucker know what they're doing? So it's important. And as a subs also need education. Like you need, in order to be a good, safe sub, you need to know what you're doing too. So, but that it goes like so much further than just like kinky play and dom sub dynamics, but I could talk about that for hours. So, God, we're just about at time. Let me see. Are there any other little like nuggets that you want to leave the people with?
I don't know. I'm like trying to like what like good stories or what I'm like trying to think now. Of course, like my mind went blank.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think like what I always tell people is to to play, to explore, and to figure it out. And like I see clients like from 18 to their 60s and, or beyond, and a lot of people are honestly having better sex lives in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. That's not to say you can't have a great sex life in your 20s, 30s, and 40s. You can have great sex whenever you want, or great play whenever you want, as long as you first are the one knowing what you want and talking to another person about it. But that also includes solo play, because the relationship starts with you first, and it's always about your consent first. And I always try to teach that. And I always try to also, I guess like a safety tip is please don't leave anyone tied up and alone.
Yeah, don't do that.
And don't do breath play by yourself.
Yeah.
In my line of work, these are, usually what I say in my classes is like, look, there's a lot of different ways you can do things. There's a lot of correct ways you can do things, and a lot of incorrect ways that you can do things. But, the only 2 ways you're going to die are these 2 ways. So like we all have to take a pledge to not do it. And do you know the last time I took a class, some people didn't want to raise their hand.
Oh.
And I was like, do we all pledge that we're not going to leave anyone tied up and alone and do erotic breath play by yourself? Some people did not raise their hand. I was like, I will watch for you on the news.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, I think that's really important.
Don't play with those people.
Yeah, don't play with those people. I have names.
Jesus.
Anyway, so yeah, I was like, well, I know. So I think that's important. And I think that this is a fire horse year, and obviously a lot of there's been a lot of really hard things that have been happening, but I always say that it's much better when we're together. It's much better when we can connect with people in any way that we can. And I do see a lot of hope. I do see a lot of really good things happening all the time. Like this podcast, we've known each other for years. Here, we're finally recording it. I'm here. I'm with the wall. I love it, and it's like the infamous. I love this one. No, I really do love this one. Yeah. But it's still always just a great time to be alive. I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm still learning like wonderful things about like kink and BDSM. I'm still going to classes. Like I teach classes. Yeah. I'm going to classes. Like I am still going to classes. And it's still just so much fun for me, like doing, playing, doing BDSM and like learning things and just playing with my friends and just having a good time. And I'm still like doing new and fun scenes. And it's still just like so exciting to me when I get to play with someone for the first time and get to be someone's first time. And they're so excited. And like, they're like, oh my God, I've been wanting to do this forever. And like, I actually got to check in with someone. Mistress has been a little busy, but and just like having that excitement, it's just like, it is play. Like it's this joy, and it's just so much fun. It's like, there's costumes, there's props. It's just like, it's just so much fun. And I'm just like, I'm just so grateful for what this profession has given me, and, how it's connected me with so many wonderful people, and, allowed me to travel all over and have like a really wonderful, beautiful life. And I'm just like really grateful. So, and I just want everyone to have like the best sex and the best play that they can have. Like, I want people to have that, because you deserve that. Yeah. You fucking deserve that. You absolutely deserve that. Mm-hmm. Like you do. And I want people to have that. Maybe someone you're with doesn't deserve it, but it's like, but you deserve it. Okay. So I just hope that people find that. And again, it's just like really wonderful that you're doing this podcast, and just again, our whole network of people just really, like all of our friends, we all get together. We're like, we want people to have the best sex ever.
Isn't that great?
More specifically, we want you to hire us to have the best sex. That's like, that's the next level. So it's like, here's the free shit, but then the expensive shit is hiring us, which you should do as well.
Yes.
Even if you can't hire us, like send us $5 for coffee. It's cool. We all do what we can, or even promote us. Like, maybe you don't have the coin right now, just share our shit. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's it. So, I mean, just, thank you so much for having me here. And it's always just good to have a conversation and see what's going on with other people, and move the conversation forward, and just keep expanding it.
Yes. And thank you for all of the work that you do. I mean, you're such an advocate in so many different ways. And, a lot of us that work in sex and sexuality, we, by that very nature, we are advocates. Not saying that there aren't people that cause harm. There are, but, I think doing this work at all in any capacity is advocacy in and of itself, because consent, at a bare minimum, consent and the right for pleasure is a part of the conversation. And I think that's really important, but you go so much further beyond that. So thank you for all you do. And thank you for being here. This is so fun. I'm glad that we finally got to do it.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So you're going to tell the people where to find you in a moment, but I'm going to read the Reddit stories that we're going to read.
So it's Reddit. Yeah, now I'm really going to shine. Yeah. Okay, wait, what Reddit forum are we reading from?
So this one comes from Relationship Advice, and I'm just going to read the titles so that y'all can join. And I'm going to read 3, but we'll probably only have time to do 2. So you get to choose whatever you want. My fiance, 26 female, wants to end our 6-year relationship because I, 33 male, can't meet her needs, and she's tired of asking. Looking for advice on working through resentment. Okay, I don't hate that one. This one I cut off where it's from. But the title is Younger Sister is a trad wife, and I don't fully trust her husband to take care of her and my niece. I've set up an investment account secretly in case she ever needs it. Do I say anything about it?
I have a lot to say about that one, but it's probably not what you think I'm going to say.
Probably
anyway.
Not. Okay. No, so we're probably going to read that one.
All right.
And the last one comes from Am I the Jerk? And it's Am I the Jerk for sleeping with my colleague after my husband left me? Which I just pull things that I try not to read them because I'm my own producer and I also want to be surprised. I'm a little selfish like that. Because I tend to like react as I read it. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, head on over to Patreon if you want to see that part. But first, where can people find you?
Oh, yes. Well, you can find me at my website, which is Los Angeles Dominatrix. I might not always be in Los Angeles, but that is my main site. And then, of course, you can find me on social media as Instagram and TikTok as the Justine Cross. And the spicier stuff will be on Blue Sky and X or whatever as Justine Plays. But really, go to the website, losangelesdominatrix.com. And you can find me there. And then, of course, Stella Obscura is stellaobscura.com. But you can find me there. I'm very well indexed.
Yes.
It'll be hard for you to not find me on the internet. But then it's like people don't. And I'm like, where are you looking?
How?
And then they're like looking on like weird shit. I forget how someone found me the other day. They listed 6 things and they were like, oh, I'm so glad you're real. And I'm like, yep.
What do you mean?
I'm here. I've been here for 20 years on all the things. Where were you looking? And he named like really weird. It was like, not like adult friend finder, but something like that. Like not like kink.com, but like sex.com or something like that.
Weird.
And I'm like,
okay.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah, you're very easily findable.
Yeah. Yeah, you would think so. Anyway.
And I'm also very impressed that you got the domain Los Angeles Dominatrix.
I've had it for a long time.
Fucking,
that
shows that you've been around the block for sure.
I cashed in early on SEO. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you can find me at Birds and Bees Don't Fuck without the U because censorship is real. I never tell you to do this, but like, subscribe, do all that shit. Send this to your friends so we can get this, escalated more and we can grow this show. But otherwise, also, if you can spell my name, good for you. That's my Instagram. But that's why we have Birds and Bees Don't Fuck. Otherwise, we'll see you over at the Patreon to read these Reddit stories. So thanks for joining us. I hope you come again and again and again and again. Bye.